Good morning and welcome to the annual meeting of AGT Food Ingredients Inc. My name is Bill McFarland and I'm the chair of the board of AGT. This meeting is being held in a webcast format only. I'm joined today by Murad Al-Khatib, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Kenton Ream, Chief Legal Officer and Corporate Secretary of the company, and Harley Elmer, Global Corporate Treasurer of the company. We will start by conducting the formal part of the meeting, and afterwards Murad will provide a business update, followed by a question period. Murad's presentation will appear on your screen, so you may easily follow along, and it will be posted on the AGT website after the meeting. I have a few administrative details to cover before we get going. Registered shareholders and duly appointed proxy holders may vote online during the meeting by clicking the voting icon. If you cannot see the full text of the resolution, please scroll down on your device in order to see the resolution as well as the voting options. If you have already voted by proxy, there is no need to vote again during the meeting, since your vote has been recorded in accordance with your proxy instructions. Given the virtual format of the meeting, we have appointed certain individuals to motion and second items of business in advance. In order for us to efficiently address any online questions on the matters to be voted upon, we encourage shareholders who are attending online and have specific questions on any item of business to submit their questions now. To enter a question or comment, select the messaging icon, compose your question or comment at the bottom of the screen, and then click the arrow icon to submit. Please note that questions submitted during the meeting via the online platform will be moderated before being sent to me. All questions will be addressed before voting closes. I now request that the meeting come to order. With the consent of the meeting, I, Bill McFarland, will act as chair of the meeting, and Kenton Ream shall act as secretary of the meeting. I appoint Patricia Selby of TSX Trust Company to act as scrutineer to report on the number of shareholders and common shares represented at this meeting. The scrutineers will compute the votes on each item of business and report the results to me as chair. The secretary has advised that we have received a declaration from the scrutineer stating that the shareholders have been given notice of this meeting and that the notice, information circular, and the form of proxy were mailed to shareholders of record as of May 4th, 2026, in advance of the time required for such notice. I will dispense with the reading of the notice. The secretary has also advised that a quorum is present. I further direct that the formal report of the scrutineer be annexed to the minutes of this meeting as a schedule. I now declare that this meeting has been regularly called and is properly constituted for the transaction of business. Voting at today's meeting for those that are entitled to vote and have not already submitted a proxy will be conducted by online ballot for each matter. I now declare the polls open on all items of business. If you submitted a completed proxy in advance of the meeting, you have already voted and are not required to vote again online unless you want to change your vote. The voting panel on your screen should now display the voting options for registered shareholders and duly appointed proxy holders. The voting panel will remain open until discussion, if any, has concluded on all items of business. I will then declare voting on all items of business closed. The first item of business is the presentation of the audited consolidated financial statements of the corporation for the year ended December 31st, 2025, and reported thereon by PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP. A copy of such financial statements and the report of the auditors thereon has been mailed to each registered shareholder of record at the close of business as of May 4th, 2026, who elected to receive the financial statements and report of the auditors. These documents are now placed before the meeting. I will dispose with the reading of the auditor's report. No vote by the shareholders is required or proposed to be taken with respect to the financial statements. The next item of business is the election of directors of AGT. As AGT did not previously receive timely notice of any further nominations of persons for election as directors, in accordance with the advance notice provisions of AGT's bylaws, the only individuals entitled to be nominated as directors at this meeting are the persons named as nominees in the Management Information Circular and Proxy Statement prepared for this meeting. As there were no other individuals nominated prior to this meeting, those 8 nominees are Robert W. McFarland, Murad Al-Khatib, Hussein Arslan, Mary Garden, Christos Gazius, Brad Martin, Javid Mirza, Mary Lucy Moran. May I have a motion regarding the election of directors? Harley?
Harley, are you on?
Yes,
You'll make that motion, Harley?
I make that motion.
Thank you.
Could you make it formally, Harley, please? Okay, Christos?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Chris Casillas, and I am a duly appointed proxy holder. I move that each of the following nominees, Robert McFarland, Murad Al-Khatib, Hussein Arslan, Mary Garden, Christos Casillas, Bradley P. Martin, David Mirza, and Mary Lucy Moran, be hereby separately elected as directors of AGT Food and Ingredients Inc. for the period commencing as of the date hereof and ending at the close of the next annual meeting of shareholders of the corporation or until their successor is elected or appointed.
Thank you, Mr. Casillas. Will someone second the motion?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Kenton Ryan, and I'm a duly appointed proxy holder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Reen. You have now heard the motion. Mr. Reen, are there any online questions on this motion?
Mr. Chairman, there are no questions on this motion.
The next item of business is the appointment of the auditor of AGT. It is proposed that PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP Chartered Accountants be appointed the auditor of AGT until the next annual meeting of shareholders of AGT or until a successor is appointed. Will someone so move?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Christos Casillas. I move that PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP Chartered Professional Accountants be appointed auditor of AGT until the next annual meeting of shareholders or until a successor is appointed at such remuneration as may be fixed by the board of directors, and the board of directors are hereby authorized to fix such.
Thank you, Mr. Casillas. Will someone second the motion?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Kenton Ryan, and I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. You now have heard the motion. Mr. Ryan, are there any online questions on this motion?
Mr. Chairman, there are no questions.
Thank you. If you're a registered shareholder or duly appointed proxy holder and have not yet submitted your votes, you can do so now online by selecting the applicable voting option on the voting panel. As a reminder, if you have previously submitted a completed proxy, you have already voted and it's not necessary to vote again online. We will pause briefly before closing the polls. The polls are now closed, and I will ask the secretary to provide the report from the scrutineer.
Mr. Chairman, I have received the report from the scrutineer. The shareholders have voted in favor of each of the items of business to be voted on at this meeting.
Thank you. Accordingly, I declare the election of each of the nominees to the board of directors and the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP as auditor of the corporation, the full text of which are set forth in the information circular of AGT dated May 11th, 2026, to be passed. Following the meeting, a report disclosing the final voting results of this meeting will be filed on SEDAR, and we will also issue a press release with such results. This now concludes the formal portion of the meeting. Accordingly, I declare this meeting terminated. On behalf of the board of directors of AGT, I would like to thank our shareholders, customers, employees, producers, suppliers, and communities where we work for their continued support. As the formal portion of the annual meeting has now been completed, I will ask Murad to provide an update on the business. Murad and Harley Ulmer Global Corporate Treasurer, will answer shareholder questions following the presentation. After the meeting, we will post a copy of the management presentation on the AGT website. Please enter your questions during Murad's presentation via the online platform. This will assist in making the Q&A period efficient. To enter a question or comment, select the messaging icon, compose your question or comment at the bottom of the screen, and then click the arrow icon to submit. Questions submitted during the presentation via the online platform will be moderated and or combined before being sent to the Secretary. We will now move to the management presentation portion of the meeting. As you know, 2026 has been an eventful year with AGT's return to the public markets. AGT is a transformed company. Low leverage, stronger and more stable EBITDA and free cash flow, a new investor base, and an exciting story with a growing pasta and packaged foods business. We're also trading at about a 6x EBITDA multiple, well below our peers, and we believe AGT today is an interesting investment opportunity. Add the fact that we have a supportive long-term controlling shareholder in Fairfax and key management holding over 12% of the shares, and AGT's future is bright. Over to you, Murad, to provide some more details around AGT's story.
Thank you very much, Bill. Great to be here in our first AGM back into the public markets. So I'm going to run through a very quick slide deck. So just, kind of at a high level, what we're going to do in this presentation at this AGM is talk a bit more about who are we, where we're going in the market opportunity, how we take advantage of that opportunity, and the core strengths of AGT and the investor opportunity today. So I want to just on slide 2 next slide, to refer to the forward-looking statements. We claim the protection of these cautionary notes for forward-looking information. On slide 3, let's just talk about who we are today. AGT Foods is a globally diversified company that produces healthy plant-based foods. So we're a diversified leader in plant-based food and ingredients. This really does reduce our tariff exposure and the susceptibility of our business to policy changes. We are global. We're not just in North America. We are around the world, close to where the consumption is growing in many of our main products. Our integrated supply chain and scaled manufacturing footprint gives us that scale and cost advantage, in particular in cost advantage jurisdictions like Turkey and India. We're a trusted partner to major brands via our R&D innovation and our private label store brand manufacturing platform. We've shown the resiliency of our platform with a proven model led by an experienced management team. Our consolidated adjusted EBITDA CAGR at 26% when comparing TTM Q1 26 to the 2021 full year results. So over the past 4.25 years, again, strong, resilient growth in the entire platform of AGT. And our packaged foods grew also by a CAGR of about 27% to 93 million, a transformation of the business that allows us to deliver adjusted free cash flow growth of a CAGR of 30% over the same period to over $100 million adjusted free cash flow in the TTM period ended March 31st of 2026. And as I said earlier, I just wanted to reiterate, experienced founder-led management team backed by a committed long-term shareholder in Fairfax. These give us a strong base from which to grow. Let's look at slide 4 now, the next slide. Two major segments of our business really complement the growth and margin profile and transformation of this business. Packaged foods is the core growth driver, centered around our branded private label and co-manufacturing opportunity. Pasta is where we are seen as a global leader in the production of global store brands, where we're investing in the future with high return projects, both with the capacity expansion that's completed in Turkey and new capacity that's being built in India. We work directly as a partner with household brands and global retailers as a part of their supply chain, managing the procurement of their wheat, the production of their pasta, And I want to remind you that pasta is a need to have in retail stores around the world. This is not discretionary consumption. It's everyday consumption that is repeated by the consumer. Our value-added processing segment is a key part of our integrated supply chain, offering efficiency and quality. And access to commodities around the world provides us with flexibility to navigate weather, pricing changes, and grow our margins over time. And the large component, our food security business, is also in this segment, making up approximately 50% of this segment, where revenues as a preferred supplier to local governments and NGOs and multilateral agencies will continue to expand. Broad global customer base across multiple sales channels has given us strong, resilient earnings in this value-added processing, demonstrated, for instance, in our Q1 results, where revenues declined, yet earnings were very stable. So free cash flow and adjusted EBITDA are KPIs in this segment and across our business, not revenue. When we go to the next slide, slide 5, and we look at the overall market opportunity, pasta and pulses are staples. Studies have long-term growth rates of 5.2% in pasta, 5.7%, so call it close to 6% CAGRs in these particular segments. They're affordable, protein-rich foods with everyday use and repeat consumption, not discretionary consumption. Strong health trends driving plant-based nutrition dense demand. GLP-1 drugs are driving a change in consumer behavior around the world, where dietary fiber and protein are not a fad, they are fundamental consumption. And fiber-rich foods such as pulses with protein and fiber are natural ingredients for the growth of food in the world. Our growth is aligned to Asia, Africa, rising food demand and demographics, with global population growth. And global food outputs will have to grow by nearly 50% by 2050 to feed a growing middle class. And key partners, retailers, and global brands are supporting this growth, along with food security and multilateral agencies. On slide 6, very simple business strategy. Expand our margins through shift and operational excellence. The mix shift includes growth in pasta, better-for-you products, and the move to higher value pulses like beans, chickpeas, and our value added. Scale our global platforms. New Turkish capacity to be 70% utilized by the end of 2026. We expect new Minot lines to be mostly utilized by the end of 2026. We expect growth and expansion in our Better For You platform in 27 and 28, along with the new India platform that's being driven, adding about 90,000 tons of capacity to our footprint. Our modular CapEx strategy will target 3 to 4 year paybacks with very strong return on invested capital and strong ability to deliver free cash flow, driving our adjusted EBITDA growth in excess of 10% per year in the packaged foods and ingredients segment. When we look at, overall low people costs at less than $200 million insulates us from inflation. $186 million of people costs in 2025, excluding our share-based comp. Low leverage, driving strong free cash flow. Future CapEx and dividends are funded through our free cash flow. All of these are fundamentals to delivering a strategy. On slide 7, there's a clear path to adjusted EBITDA growth through targeted investments in construction today. We know where we're winning, and Turkey and India pasta is a growth driver. Better for you food ingredients, and then the efficiency and our diversification of our value-added processing segment. These are, again, doubling down on our highest performing businesses. These are our winners. On slide 8, strategy is in place. I can tell you, we're working. Right? We're well positioned in attractive, growing global food markets, and we've had success for several years. The CAGRs that we talked about earlier, 30% adjusted free cash flow growth, 26% adjusted EBITDA growth in packaged foods on a CAGR basis in the last 4.5 years, are showing that we are indeed winning. And the strong financial profile with adjusted free cash flow and EBITDA being driven by packaged food growth in excess of 10% will give us, very strong growth trajectory along with high single-digit growth and margin improvement in our value-added processing. I don't want to understate again, management team in Fairfax are experienced and committed to driving long-term shareholder value. So we're here and, we're winning. And, the clear opportunity here is to drive shareholder value. strong alignment between management, Fairfax, and investors. And currently, as Bill said, with AGT valued at 6 times adjusted EBITDA as compared to our comparator group at 9 times and greater, we're at a point now where there's a great investment opportunity. So I'm going to stop there now and take some questions. I think I'm going to just ask Bill to just wrap up for me.
Thank you, Murad. We would now be pleased to entertain any questions. To enter a question or comment, select the messaging icon, compose your question or comment at the bottom of the screen, and then click on the arrow icon to submit. Mr. Wren, are there any online questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we've received the following question. What is the current and expected ongoing impact of the war in the Middle East?
Yeah, I'll take that question. So, you know what, again, very timely question, a very dynamic situation. You know, I guess we are in a great position now where there is a ceasefire that seems to be holding, discussions going on between the U.S. and Iran and the Switzerland talks. But, I think, I want to just kind of talk about, what's already kind of what I would call water under the bridge. Governments are rethinking food security strategies and expect it to increase future revenues. So we are seeing that the tailwinds or the push after this Middle East war now, its stocks are depleted in the region. Initial Q1 disruption delayed our shipments, hurt Q1 by approximately 5 to 7 million of EBITDA. We are expecting that to be recaptured in the Q2 to Q4 period. So we're seeing that play out with robust shipments in April, May, into June and continuing on in Q3. We've remained operational through the whole disruption. We're pleased the strait is open, but regardless, it hasn't been a big impact on our business. And it wouldn't be if there's a reversal. So the reversal that's going to happen now will only be positive. I mean, even, the oil futures coming down so drastically and dramatically will again lead to the normalization of freight rates in short order. Supply chains have adapted. Shipments are rerouted. We're expecting it to take 2 to 3 months to get all back to normal shipping. But in the meantime, these multimodal land bridges and other things that are being done by large global organizations like DP World into the United Arab Emirates, these are continuing to make sure that products are flowing. And governments are prioritizing food shipments over other discretionary goods. So, in general, I think that, what we'll see is there might be, a little bit of what I would call ebbs and flows, but it's very manageable going forward. We can maybe go to the next question.
Next question that we received is, why are you building a plant in India, and what is the opportunity?
Well, again, I would say, listen, India is a global giant. And, when I look at the alignment of Canadian trade policy with India, and I think that, in general, the Modi government's policies, there's been strong policy support under the Modi government for manufacturing in India. Good knowledge of the local dynamics exists as a Fairfax, controlled company. And we have an AGT footprint in India with about 100 full-time staff on the ground and almost a decade of experience there. The strategic location of India provides freight advantages into global markets. From Navasheva, India into U.S. ports and into European ports is almost, a lot of cases cheaper than local ground transport from local origination points in North America. So, what we see is low construction costs, low operating costs, competitive raw material, great regulatory regime, and competitive position. I want to tell you, when we did the IPO, we said, we hope there's going to be a free trade agreement with Europe. Well, it's done now. Minister Goyal was in Canada recently with Prime Minister Carney and announced publicly their target to have 70 nations of free trade agreements done by 2027. This is a government in India that is moving quickly, and our strategic position will be enhanced by being there. And we expect that India can grow in our pasta business. We're saying what took us 15 years in Turkey, we might do in 7 years in India. So we're quite optimistic that this is going to be a very successful venture. Maybe go to the next question.
So we have one more question that's up right now. It's, how is AGT different today than it was when it was public before?
Yeah, that's the question I get in almost every institutional meeting. And so let me just, let's break it down here. Strong balance sheet, right? That provides us flexibility and safety margin. I mean, the decision by Fairfax to reduce the leverage in the IPO down to less than 0.5 times debt to EBITDA is what I would call a pristine balance sheet, leverage position that I think is enviable in our sector. So I think that gives us the flexibility and the safety margin to make sure. And, I said in my calls earlier, we're going to be very disciplined on leverage. So, ensuring that we keep that at, less than call it 1 times debt to EBITDA, as we continue to go forward, and potentially even lower. There's significantly a much more diversification across our platforms and geographies. I remind people that the old AGT, when Mr. Modi put tariffs on in 2017 and 18, our earnings cratered. They went in half. I have to remind people that Armageddon happened in 2025. Trump 2, global tariff war, which was much more severe than the first time around. And then, we followed that shortly after that with the Middle East war. And look at our earnings, consistent. We are showing the resiliency. Why? Lentils they're a big part of our business, but they're not the only business we do in value added. We've moved into new clients, packagers, canners, retailers, not just wholesale markets. Our packaged foods is huge compared to where it was. When we were public before, it was 18 million of EBITDA. Now it's 93 million and growing. And we've won. Like, we're winning. We know where we're winning at pasta, better for you, and those segments. We were previously again not necessarily as focused on diversification of all those markets from a geographic perspective. So we have reduced exposure to single tariff or single market shocks. Right? The goal in this, this wasn't an accident. This was done through investment as a private company to prepare us to be public again. We have a larger scale. Manufacturing foundations built. We need smaller modular CapEx projects to drive the next phase of growth. And, again, this is a free cash flow business. That's what we're focusing on today. Low leverage, free cash flow, double down on the winners. So again, I think what we're going to prove over time is that the market will see us as a leader in pasta, a leader in protein-based packaged foods. And, I think over time, we're hopefully going to become known as steady Eddie, predictable business. That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, there's one more. How big is the protein and dietary fiber opportunity?
That's a question that everybody will answer. Harley, maybe you can give a couple of perspectives on how big is the protein and dietary fiber opportunity.
Anybody that's been following anything with diet and nutrition, it's almost impossible to avoid seeing the vast demand for protein. We've had a fundamental shift in perspectives on diet and nutrition over the last little while, driven as much by the introduction and the vast adoption of GLP-1 drugs, where people are looking now for nutrient-dense foods. That includes everything that's high protein, and the extra piece that's picked up steam this year now is dietary fiber. So we're seeing now that as those drugs have had more widespread adoption, the food industry as a whole is really changing its focus and perspective. The fact that they're starting to go now onto generics and become available in tablet form as opposed to injection is only going to accelerate those adoptions. And we think that the world today is really focused on those two metrics everywhere. So it's a fundamental sustained change that is going to continue to be prominent in consumers' minds. And we are participating in that space, and we have the products that really help fill those needs efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, and I would just add one more thing to this is that, I think we have to recognize that the global demand for food, studies have shown, as I said earlier, global food outputs have to grow by 50% by 2050 just to feed the growing middle class. So as consumers get wealthier, they eat more protein. I think we also have to recognize that in the diets of the world, I would say North American consumers, have a dietary problem because of choice. We make bad choices. In the world, a lot of dietary choices and the mismatch and the protein deficiency and the fiber deficiency is actually availability and affordability. So, I have to remind people that, nutrient-dense, protein-rich, and dietary fiber-rich pulses, in everyday foods is actually an affordable choice that will actually over time have a significant dietary impact on not only health, but also on the, outcomes in the emerging markets. So, I always joke, I say North Americans, we say we're going to eat less pasta, we all lie, right? In the world, they're eating more pasta. Why? It's actually an affordable protein. I have to remind people rice is 6% protein. Pasta is 12% protein, and it's affordable like rice. So I do think it's a great opportunity. No fads, no trends that are kind of here today, gone tomorrow, which ultimately will play into our stability messaging. Any other questions in the queue?
Mr. Chairman and Murad, there are no further questions.
All right, I'll turn it back to Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kenton. I would like to thank everyone for attending the annual meeting. We are excited about the future of AGT, and we look forward to staying connected with all of our shareholders and stakeholders and appreciate your continued support. Have a wonderful day.